Have you ever been completely backed into a corner where every single choice you have just feels like a losing move? Welcome to today's Explainer. In the high-stakes reality of crisis governance, leaders often find themselves hitting a massive brick wall. It's a situation where that luxury of finding a neat little win-win scenario, that simply vanishes. Instead, you're forced to make decisions where literally every single path forward comes with a severe, unavoidable penalty. You can't just pick the good option because, frankly, a good option just doesn't exist anymore. So today, we're focusing on exactly that intensely uncomfortable space, making trade-offs when every option destroys something. Okay, let's dive into this. Imagine the clock striking exactly 10:20 a.m. at an organization we'll call Nexora. Let's say they're a major global healthcare logistics provider. A sudden, massive supply chain blackout has just hit, and the leadership team is frantically huddled in a room. They have to immediately choose between three distinct paths forward. But here's the harsh, unavoidable reality of their dilemma. Every single option has a heavy cost. There is no magic button to press that makes the problem go away. Waiting, that destroys something incredibly valuable. Reopening widely, that destroys something valuable too. Even opening a limited, carefully controlled perimeter destroys something valuable. So here's exactly what Nexora is staring down. Option 1 is to simply wait. The benefit here? Well, it protects their ongoing internal recovery efforts. It gives their IT teams the breathing room to securely rebuild the infrastructure. But the cost? It severely threatens two absolutely vital hospital commitments, meaning critical care deliveries are delayed and the real-world human impact is immediate. Option 2 is to reopen widely. This protects their overall operational flows, gets products moving again, but it significantly increases their exposure to whatever caused the blackout in the first place. They'd be risking a secondary, potentially even more catastrophic collapse. Finally, we have option 3, open a limited perimeter. This successfully protects three highly prioritized deliveries, but the cost here is massive operational complexity. It demands incredibly strict coordination, manual oversight, and enforcing rigid thresholds that their teams just aren't used to managing under that kind of pressure. So as you can see, none of these options are good. They all hurt. To navigate this kind of nightmare without totally paralyzing, we're going to walk through a very strict methodology today. Here is our agenda. 1, the dilemma. 2, the compromise trap. 3, 6 criteria for trade-offs. 4, starting from value. 5, the 20-minute exercise. And finally, 6, accountability. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the dilemma. What do you do when every option destroys something? Which brings us right into Section 2. The compromise trap, and why avoiding the blur is absolutely crucial. Now, what's really interesting about this is human nature. When we're faced with three damaging options and we can't find a good one, our natural instinct begs us to find a middle ground, right? We desperately want to soften the blow. But in a crisis, seeking a compromise is incredibly dangerous. Why? Because a compromise distributes effort across different functions. By trying to please everyone and minimize the immediate political fallout in the boardroom, a middle option usually just combines the vulnerabilities of all the paths without actually protecting any specific value. You basically just end up failing at everything, slowly. A true trade-off, though, that's entirely different. A trade-off gives explicit priority to one single value. It forces you to look your team in the eye and accept a limited, defined sacrifice, all while setting specific review conditions. It's painful, sure, but it's clear. Remember this. Compromise does not equal trade-off. Moving to Section 3, 6 criteria for trade-offs. Structuring the choice. So if we aren't compromising, how do we systematically weigh these difficult, damaging options without freezing up? Well, we need a structured choice. We have to evaluate every single option using these exact 6 criteria. Number 1, value. What exactly is the protected value? 2, exposure. What value is being left exposed or vulnerable? 3, time. What is the actual time before the impact hits us? 4, confidence. What's our level of confidence in these assumptions? Are we operating on hard data here, or are we really just guessing? 5, reversibility. This one is a real game changer. Can we hit undo on this decision later if we're wrong, or is this a one-way door? And finally, 6, threshold. What is the exact stop threshold where we pull the plug? Now, using these criteria doesn't magically calculate the perfect decision for you. Rather, they prevent you from making a dangerous, completely unforced error, comparing precise, measurable benefits against vague, undefined costs. Let's apply these criteria directly back to Nexora to make their options completely comparable. If they protect IT stability, but the exposed value is severe because the cost to those hospitals appears incredibly quickly. If they choose a wide reopening, they protect shipping volume, but the exposure is massive because a system relapse becomes so much harder to contain. Now, if they go with the limited opening, they protect priority flows and accept reduced overall capacity. But to actually make this practicable, it requires an independent channel for sensitive, secure exchanges. They can't use their normal compromised networks, so they would need something like an out-of-band crisis network, such as the Arkeionis Crisis Communication Network mentioned in our source material, to make this third option work safely. By laying it out exactly like this, the leadership team isn't just debating feelings anymore, they're debating facts and hard operational realities. Section 4. Starting from value. Building the value foundation. And this brilliantly illustrates how the criteria we just discussed must be anchored in actual business value creation, rather than just catering to whichever department happens to have the loudest voice in the room. This connects 4 critical pieces through a framework known as the Ransom-Kick Resilience Model. Okay, let's break that jargon down a bit. First up is your BIA, or Business Impact Analysis. Essentially, this is the map of what matters most to your survival. Second is the MBCO, your minimum business continuity objective. Think of this as the absolute bare minimum level of service required just to keep the lights on and keep the business breathing. Third is your point of truth, which is the unfiltered, exact reality of your current situation right now. And fourth is the resilience twin, which maps out exactly how your technical and human dependencies will change based on the choice you're about to make. By linking these 4 concepts together, your trade-off is centered entirely around true value creation. You always start from value. Now for Section 5, the 20-minute exercise. Let's look at some practical application. Let's move to and see how this builds into something you can actually use. Theory is great, but crisis governance demands practical application. Here's a powerful exercise you can run with your team in just 20 minutes to completely reframe how you handle tough calls. Step 1. Choose one real decision facing your organization right now and define at least 2 options. Step 2. Give each option 1 row on your record. Step 3. Complete those 6 fields we discussed: value, exposure, time, confidence, reversibility, threshold, and do this by collaborating with 2 completely different departments to break out of those echo chambers. And step 4. This one is vital. Reject vague terms immediately. If someone says the risk is high or the impact is significant, stop them right there. Demand a specific object, a definitive timeline, and a tangible consequence. Start with just one decision. The first useful result here isn't magically finding the perfect choice. The real victory is simply seeing exactly where your options diverge on paper, completely stripped of emotion. And finally, Section 6, accountability, moving from choice to accountability. So the crucial point is this: we've structured the methodology, we've compared the options, and we've anchored them securely in value. But platforms and frameworks, they're just tools. Software platforms like Arkeionis.app, highlighted in our source material, are incredible tools for structuring clarity. They help maintain your options, your assumptions, and your criteria in a living, breathing reference document. But they cannot bear the immense emotional and operational weight of a crisis. A tool does not replace decision authority. Ultimately, human leaders must step up to the plate. You can map out the most perfect, logical trade-off, but at the end of the day, a choice must be owned by the real people in the room. Which brings us to the lingering, uncomfortable reality of making a trade-off where every option destroys something. Nexora has made their options comparable. They've successfully stripped away the emotion and the politics, but tomorrow, when you face your own impossible choices in your own organization, you're going to have to ask yourself an even harder question. Once that painful trade-off is selected, who actually accepts the risk created by that decision, and for exactly how long? It's a profound question of pure accountability, and quite frankly, it is the true test of leadership. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.